Alright everyone, we start off today predictably with the FBI whistleblower report that was just released, and it contravenes exactly what AG Garland said to Congress, which could be a big potential legal problem, or would be if anyone was ever willing to bring any of the swamp creatures to account. That's not going to happen under a Beijing Biden administration. Link in the description, archived of course. This is rather damning. Garland stated openly in the Biden administration, when they were clarifying what they were talking about with regards to using the FBI to monitor some of the school board meeting kerfuffles over critical race theory, they said, no, you don't understand. We're not spying on people. We're not looking into people. We're not going to fly black drones over their houses or anything. We're just standing by to make sure that there's no actual threat. So if someone is making threats at the school board meeting, they might get met with by a friendly agent who will look into whether they're building a bomb, etc. So we're not spying. That's not happening. There's no active surveillance. We're just taking note of situations where there might have been threats, harassment, assaults, and then we're looking into them. That was his testimony. It turns out that's not actually the case. Garland almost immediately, after Biden giving the okay in the first place, began actively using counterterrorism tools to conduct surveillance on a number of parent targets. They were specifically targeted for unconstitutional, I would say, surveillance, based on the fact that they went to school board meetings and they got heated. Now, do I trust the FBI, of all federal bureaus and alphabet soup agencies, to target only those that are legitimately credible threats, potentially? Like someone has said, I'm going to fucking bomb your house or something, or I'm going to kill your kids. Someone has done something criminal, ergo, you have a worry that they may actually be serious. Do I trust Garland to oversee that process? No, because he lied to Congress. At least if the whistleblower report is true, which, I was taught by the legacy media that any time a whistleblower said something, unless it was Julian Assange, of course, or Edward Snowden, that it was automatically true. If they say that Trump is building an atomic bomb in his basement and he plans to nuke his competitors, he plans to put the bomb in the basement of one of their hotels to make more money, I'm supposed to believe that. It's like, Snidely Whiplash mode, but I'm supposed to believe that. So I'm just going to believe this until it's proven otherwise. That also seems to be the case with modern trials in regards to Rittenhouse, etc. Now, let me first say, if you're watching this video on YouTube, down below there will be a pinned comment with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. Keep in mind, I make several exclusive videos every day. I'm going to try to do the full 3 today. I don't know, because the cat kept me up last night, and my shoulder and neck are stiff from laying in the same fucking position because the cat wouldn't even let me have half my pillow. So I'll try. I'm playing hurt today. Now, again, this is a direct contravention of testimony given before Congress. I think under oath, though I'm not 100% sure. They have a spotty track record. They never put Zuckerberg under oath. That's because all of them get money from Facebook, by the way. Just so we're clear about that, money definitely talks much more than Zuckerberg will ever have to before Congress. This is a war against parents. This is also really terrible for the administration, even though the legacy media by and large will ignore the story, or they'll say, well, we're sure that they have to have, there's a credible process to go through before you identify these parents as potential targets. It should freak literally everyone in the country out that the AG has caused the FBI to conduct surveillance on people that by and large have conducted no crime. This is essentially a pre-crime thing. Now, if there has been a credible threat, some actual crime, a person has threatened the life of a school board member, etc., they're like, I don't want this critical race theory here, I'm going to kill you, commie, then you can make that argument, pertinent to having a warrant, etc. Not that the alphabet soup agencies ever apparently need one. They can just raid your house at 2 a.m. and it doesn't make any difference, like they've done Giuliani and everyone else, and usually CNN's right on the scene. Kind of confusing how that always seems to happen when you have these try to ban all of these others. James O'Keefe. This is effectively, though, a war on parents, because it doesn't involve that apparent portion of the legal process. It's just you showed up at the school board meeting, You opposed critical race theory, and you were a little bit too angry about it, so now we're going to spy on your emails and your phone calls to make sure that you're not doing anything wrong. This violates the Fourth Amendment. It arguably violates the First, because these people are simply expressing themselves. It's an intimidation tactic. That's the other part. This is clearly meant to intimidate people. What they should do is double down. If the leftoids want to double down on defending Marxism, on defending attacks on education, historical revisionism that they brand as racial justice, and trust me, they are trying to rebrand critical race theory right now by simply taking the label away, taking the entire critical race theory and rebranding it as racial justice education. It's the same thing. I already explained. It's like the difference between describing a pomme de terre and a potato. It's the same thing, and when you begin describing it, you'll see it's the same. You're using different labels. It's word games. It's linguistic psyops. It's propaganda. In the most literal fucking goddamn sense, it's also centrally organized, not grassroots. There's a reason they all started doing it at exactly the same time. Now, effectively, when we look at this situation, you can do two things. You can either get scared and say, oh my god, I don't want my name on a list. I better not show up at the school board meeting. Or you can say, you know what, fuck it. We're all on lists anyway. If you support gun rights too much, you're on a list. If you're too outspoken against Beijing Biden's economic policy, you're probably on a list. I'm probably on a fucking list. I have to deal with that shit. Subsequent administrations, by the way, have done this. Biden is maybe the worst and the most draconian so far, but it happened a lot under Bush. Even Trump spoke about CIA black sites. Obama had journalists spied on. Do you remember the AP spying scandal? This isn't new. There's no reason to back down. I mean, they can put you on a list, in theory, because they probably don't have a warrant for it. In theory, because it's a fishing expedition, it's extra legal anyway, and I think that the announcement itself was meant to be more intimidating than anything else. Well, nobody's intimidated by little Joey. They might be intimidated by the specter of the FBI gone amok, sort of like Lois Lerner's IRS back in the day. I think the IRS is more scary. They can fuck you up way worse. I wouldn't be surprised if Biden is actively attempting to weaponize them. You can expect some political intrigue in next year's audits, I would assume. Make sure not to take too many write-offs, people. I'm thinking, should I even take any fucking deductions? Maybe I should just pay a few extra $1,000 and say fuck it. Well, I don't have any receipts because there's no receipts to have. I didn't claim any deductions. Fuck you. Considering it. I'm not joking. The FBI is spying on thousands of people because they oppose communism. Think of it that way. And that's what it is. CRT is informed by Marxism. It's self-professed right in the same literature under the banner of CRT. That the academics that developed the theory, so-called, it's really more of a hypothesis and not a good one, don't even hide that fact. They openly admit to it. When you bring this up to the average leftoid, they deny it. Either because they're being disingenuous and they realize that Marxism's not approved of by the vast majority of Americans, indeed most sane people in the world, or they just don't know because the legacy media keeps telling them it's not true, even though it's in the literature. When you take the label critical race theory out, as they did in Virginia, but you retain largely elements of critical race theory, you are describing the same thing. You are simply using a different label or no label at all. It's complete hackery. It's disingenuous. They're using this as a manner to attack parents. And I would say for some of these parents, it might be better just to take your kids out of the public school system and let it wither on the goddamn vine, as literally millions of people have done over the last year. Millions of people have moved their kids into private education, and I think even more people have moved to homeschooling. Homeschooling has skyrocketed in most parts of the United States, partially because of the lockdownerism, partially because of the denigration of the educational system. It's to the point where it almost makes sense not to even bother funding it at the federal level. Get the federal government completely out of it. That only municipalities should be in it. Maybe even states shouldn't really be involved in it. They failed too. When we look state to state, you've got school boards filled by people that don't know anything about education that are peddling Marxism because they're too ignorant to understand what's in the fucking curriculum. All the leftoids have to do is submit the curriculum and make it sound like it's racial justice, like Martin Luther King was writing the history component, and these people aren't smart enough to see through it. You think that they've read any of the CRT literature? They don't even read a write-up on it. All they get is they Google it, they see the CNN article saying it's okay, and then say, whoa, there's nothing wrong with this. It's not in the curriculum, but if it was, it would be wonderful now, wouldn't it? Well, it is in your curriculum. It's also bigotry against white people, just to point that out. This is unnecessary. It's caused political backlash already. Now we've got them, supposedly having to explain this report. They won't have to on like MSNBC or something. They just won't talk about it at all. Or they'll call it a right-wing conspiracy theory. Well, we can't really verify that this is from a whistleblower. It could have been Jack Posobiec in a telephone booth, so we're not going to really report on it. They'll do the Hunter Biden laptop thing. They'll do that and they'll say, well, there's no evidence of it, so it's not a real story. And when you say, well, can you look into it? No, there's no reason to because it's not real. They'll do that. They'll do the catch-22 thing. It's surreal. I mean, how much more of a lawless administration can you have, by the way? The eviction moratorium's ruled unconstitutional. They try to go around it. Race-based farm aid is shot down. You have the attempt to shut down federal land drilling permits that had already been granted. Those developments. That was ruled unconstitutional. You've had the OSHA mandate ruled unconstitutional. By the way, it now goes to the 6th Circuit. They got chosen in the lottery to see which circuit would do it. It's mostly Republican appointees. The OSHA mandate's dead, officially. It's not going to be revived. The 6th Circuit will maintain the stay. It might go before SCOTUS. Biden might not even fucking bother. That's about all. Peace out.